1st, 2024 Fitchburg Conservation Commission. The Conservation Commission has 7 members. Members are citizens residing in Fitchburg, Massachusetts. The Commission is appointed by the City Council and serves on a volunteer basis. The Commission collaborates with the residences, businesses, and organizations to facilitate compliance with the 8 interests of the Wetlands Protection Act and the Fitchburg Wetlands Bylaw. Meetings of this commission are subject to and abide by the open meeting law. If you would like more information about any of these regulations, feel free to ask a commissioner, agent, or consultant. Thank you for your commitment to the conservation of our natural resources. Thank you for your patience as we navigate this hybrid meeting. The commission requests that folks wishing to speak approach the podium and speak clearly into the microphone, and remote attendees maintain microphones on mute for privacy. If you would like to speak, use the chat or raise your hand function to alert the chair of your intention. Be advised this public meeting is being live streamed and recorded by FATV. If a member of the in-person audience is recording this meeting, this is your opportunity to identify yourself for the public record. Now I'd like to call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Yeah.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Here.
Commissioner Tantanarowat?
Here.
Commissioner Satterfield in attendance. Associate Commissioner Peltier?
Here.
Associate Commissioner Wallace?
Here.
Thank you. And now let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Do we have any announcements? Any members, commission members have an announcement they'd like to make? Arlene? Anything good?
Lots of good things, too many to name.
Okay. All right then. I'd like to note that a hearing won't open without submittal of a complete application that includes abutter notices and payment of all fees. Do we have all of that tonight?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Madam Chair, excuse me, do we want to take the Weyerhaeuser
I was just
project
gonna- yeah.
first? Is Mr. Best on,
Yes,
Herlin?
he is.
But if he would be okay with that,
I'm just giving him speaking privileges. I'm just waiting for him to reply.
we could do the in-house first.
Mr. Best, if you could please unmute yourself. There he is.
Okay, I think that did it.
Mr. Best, would you be willing to allow us to go out of order and have the in-person attendance go out of order?
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
All right, so let me see here. Where am I here? Here we go. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent, Weyerhaeuser and R Company Soil Remediation, 1B Princeton Road. Speaking to the notice of intent, we have our great friend, Dr. Levo.
Good evening, and I have with me Tony Rodolakis, who's prepared most of the NOI application for.
Mr. Rodolakis, welcome.
Thank you. And we have hard copies of some of the figures if you want those in more viewable size.
Okay, Dr. Lieba, will you Will you explain to us how you'll be meeting the performance standards for this project?
You want?
Sure.
They can sit, because it has microphones on the other side.
Gentlemen, you're allowed to sit if you want. It's up to you.
I can stand, that's fine, but thank you. So basically, this project is a soil remediation that's being conducted pursuant to the Massachusetts Contingency Plan, and so we believe that we qualify as a limited project under 310 CMR 1053Q. The work will take place within riverfront area, within the 200-foot riverfront area. Some of the remediation will also occur within bordering lands subject to flooding, which is the 100-year floodplain to the North Nashua River. Work will also be conducted within buffer zone to inland bank to the Whitman River, as well as the North Nashua River. How we meet the performance standards is basically we're replacing everything in kind. We are removing soil that's contaminated from historical operations of a paper mill. We're basically digging out the soil. We're replacing it back to the existing elevations and contours. We will be reseeding any disturbed land first with an erosion control mixture, followed by more permanent plantings of native species to long-term stabilize the bank and to restore the habitat. Where we are working in a wooded area, we're proposing herbaceous vegetation as well as some shrub and tree cover in order to help stratify the habitat to replace what's there presently. And then along the North Nashua River, where it's currently just an open field, we will be replacing most of that with herbaceous ground cover, a sunshade mix. And then there are some sparse plantings of shrubs. With respect to the riverfront area, there will be a little bit of new pavement, and it's going to be about 1,168 square feet. This pavement is actually part of the engineered cap, which will be put down to isolate some of the residual contaminants. To block the exposure pathway in order to prevent people from coming into contact with it, in order to prevent plants and wildlife from coming into contact with it, and also to serve deliberately as an impervious surface to prevent stormwater from infiltrating down and getting contaminated before it enters the groundwater system. In order to offset the impacts of the additional impervious surface, we are proposing a stormwater collection trench and an infiltration basin that will direct any stormwater from this new impervious surface to a clean area that's not contaminated, that will allow recharge to occur more naturally and get back into the groundwater system. That's basically it in a nutshell.
Thank you, Mr.
Are there any?
Rodolakis.
Thank you.
Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? Please state your name and address for the record. Hearing none from the public, let's turn to the commission. Do we have any commissioners with questions?
I just have a comment, just to advise. Herlin and I walked the site with both Anthony and Dr. Lebo. This is like phase 2 of what they had started previously. If the replication area in that was done previously looks wonderful, I anticipate that this phase of the project will go just as well and would support this ongoing cleanup.
Thank you. Commissioner Christian?
Just out of curiosity, where does this material get trucked to?
One of the aspects that we're working on now is it will go to either a landfill or a disposal facility based on the characteristics. For high PCB waste, it probably will have to go to Michigan. That's as close as it is that they can actually, it's permitted. These are permitted facilities that they only accept certain wastes, but it will all go to a facility permitted for the waste.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Just, they have a good track record, past performance.
Absolutely. Okay, so hearing no more from the public, the chair closes the hearing for notice of intent. Oh, wait. Do we have, yeah. I'm on the wrong page here. I'm sorry. Okay, hearing no more from the public, the chair closes the hearing for notice of intent. Weyerhaeuser NR Company, Soil Remediation, 1B Princeton Road. Do we have a motion?
Herlin, do we have a Mass DEP number yet for this site?
I don't believe so. Let me just double check quickly.
Just checking before we.
Then I need to open-
Tony, do you know? Have you been?
Okay.
Sometimes they do it same day as hearing.
Yes, sometimes very last minute, but I can check. I haven't received anything via email today, so I would say no.
Okay, so the chair is going to rescind that closing of the hearing. And
Yeah, until we get, just checking, because I didn't.
until we
didn't
get
have
a
that.
DEP file number.
Yeah, it's still open.
Okay, so we'll continue this to the June meeting. We'll have to continue this to the June meeting, and please, you can join us remotely if you prefer. It's up to
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Can I have a motion to continue this to the?
Motion to continue on 1B Princeton Road, cleanup until the June 5th meeting.
Second.
Where am I here? Okay, I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly, Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwan,
Aye.
and Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in tonight. Okay.
We also have Mr. Bombassa here for Mad River Solar. I don't know if you want to take that on.
Let's see. When was Mr. Best is the last one.
Do you want to do that? No, I think we can take them.
Okay. Mr. Bombassi, would you like to, we want to get you in and out of here. If you'd like to go next. This is,
Madam Chair, I will step aside and recuse myself.
the chair recognizes that Commissioner Jacob is recusing himself. Okay, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent Mad River Solar Holdings, LLC, ground-mounted solar array 0 Ashburnham Street. Mr. Bombassi, please speak to the notice of intent.
Sure. Good evening. For the record, Matt Bombassi with Bowler Engineering. Herlin, I believe Becky from the applicant
Yes.
likely has her hands raised as well.
I only see Becky. Is anybody else attending?
I believe just Becky.
Okay.
Yes, I believe it's just me from conversion.
Cool. Excellent. I'll just give a quick recap as to where we are. I think we've made some good progress since we were last here in April. So just a recap on, I guess first I want to follow up on a couple comments that were from the commission during that hearing. The first one was just kind of a note that a conservation restriction was required for the eastern portion of the parcel as part of the original permitting. We did track down that recorded A&R, recorded deed restriction and all that stuff, and sent that to Herlin. And we knew it was a thing, but we want to make sure to provide the documentation, so we had sent that to commission. The other comment I have written down from the last hearing was I know Mr. Donnelly had asked about constructing the stormwater basins kind of at the onset of construction, which obviously makes a lot of good sense. I did review the old order conditions, and I knew it was in there, but that was one of the previous conditions of the other order. So I think that was our expectation, and that the commission would want us to, at the beginning of construction, do the stormwater basins first before any solar array goes up. Since the last hearing, we did receive a response from Dillison Roy, the peer review. I think Generally, all the stormwater comments were addressed, at least in my reading. There was a few suggested conditions to the commission, which I can run through if you'd like. Additionally, we did get our DEP file number from the Central Regional Office, and similarly, they had a couple conditions or suggestions that honestly mimicked quite a bit the Dillis and Roy comments we had relative to making sure the site was properly stabilized, seeded, decompacted, things like that. So I guess my game plan was to run through any remaining kind of suggestions from Dillis and Roy, unless there was anything else the commission wanted to run through first.
Well, go ahead.
Sure, awesome.
We'll let you speak your piece, and then we'll...
Fair enough. Yeah. So again, I think the majority of comments were addressed. They did have a couple suggestions. So one being test pits on the plan. We do have test pits, and our expectation is we would also be doing some additional testing during construction. I know that was a condition of the previous. It was either conservation or planning approval, but we'd be out there monitoring the stormwater basins and digging soil test pits. There was a couple of conditions relative to erosion controls. One, that the monitoring reports or the erosion control inspection reports are submitted to conservation, and also a suggestion that maybe a third-party monitor for construction period. We will be submitting a stormwater permit with the city, also filing with the EPA for a construction general permit. As part of that permit, we do have to do weekly or biweekly erosion control inspections by a professional erosion control specialist. I think we'd be happy to send those to the commission for the records and keep the commission in tune with what's going on out there. A condition relative to the monitoring of any restoration plantings, or I know we also have a residential buffer proposed as well. I don't think we would have an issue with that. Our expectation is we're going to do the landscaping hopefully towards the beginning of construction, and then make sure that those plants stay and live. Cool. Condition, a recommendation that we submit the stormwater pollution prevention plan to the city. Absolutely happy to do that. We're going to be preparing that anyways for the EPA, and can send them not only that report, but any inspections that go along with it as it goes along. I believe that was generally all of the suggestions from Dillis and Roy. Similarly, DEP did have a couple notes relative to making sure that there was a metal condition left under the solar array. And again, we're more than happy to work with the commission on that. We've updated our plan since the original submission to include notes relative to decompaction, raking, seeding, reseeding, temporary mulching, things like that. That was in response to Dillis and Roy, who had a very similar comment. So again, happy to do that, and included that already on the plans, and would be happy to keep the commission updated as to where that stands. I think our hope would be to get the site cleaned up, seed it temporarily, and then keep seeding and reseeding as construction goes along to make sure it's stabilized. I think that's just about all the comments we received, but we're happy to run through anything else the commission would like.
Could I ask, back to item number 2 on the restoration plan, could we have an actual restoration plan? Not to hold things up, but could we have one in 30 or 60 days? And then we could share that with or you could also give it to the planning board?
Yeah, so there was a restoration plan previously prepared for the project, for the wetland areas and the upland areas that were disturbed. So I know a lot of that work has been completed or started. So I think we're happy to, I guess, either include that as part of this record or keep the commission up to date on that stuff as well. I know when I've been out there, the solar array itself, the area I've walked, needs a little bit of work because it's within the array. So I don't think that was the focus of the original restoration effort. But again, yeah, happy to have that as part of the record.
So we'd have an in-hand plan?
Yep, yeah, I think you already have it. Great.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? We did have a member of the public just join us. Counselor. Okay, thank you. So hearing none from the public, let's turn to the commission. Is there any questions or comments that the commissioners have? No? Hearing none?
Well, I would just like to say to Herlin that I like the format of the peer party review, questions asked, questions answered, and they address it in that way. and not right now, but down the road, later in the discussion, I believe that we should use their recommendations as our special conditions.
I agree.
Okay.
All right. Hearing no more from the commission, the chair closes the hearing for notice of intent. Mad River Solar Holdings, LLC, ground-mounted solar array, 0 Ashburnham Street. Do we have a, we need to read off the,
I can't read it.
do we have someone to read off the information?
Motion. It's just a motion with all the required conditions from the peer review. So if somebody would be willing to make a motion, and we need a restoration plan in 60 days from today, Matt.
So
Can we have-
motion to accept the conditions and the plans to have a restoration plan
In 60
in
days.
60 days.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
And I guess if I could just clarify the restoration plan, just so I can pass along to the applicant, that would include basically a lot of the information that was previously proposed, but maybe an update on that in any areas that need to be further restored or areas on site that weren't restored, similar to the previous plan.
Yes. It says here
So we're working off of, what plan are we working off of here?
the
What plans?
old order of conditions.
Okay, for the restoration.
Correct.
Okay,
The old NOI, I'm sorry.
okay. So I'm going to call the roll. We have a second on the table. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Bombassi.
Awesome. Yeah, no, thanks very much, and thanks to Herlin. Obviously, there's a lot of history here for us to jump into, and Herlin made it about as easy as possible, so I appreciate it.
Thank you,
You're very
Mr. Bombassi.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Appreciate your efforts here.
You're welcome.
Okay. So we're going to jump back to the chair recognizes Commissioner Jacobs is returning to the table. And let's see. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for request for determination of applicability, 80 Sheldon Road. Who do we have to speak to this? We have
Mr.
Mr.
Best.
Best. The chair recognizes Mr. Best. This is for the request for determination of applicability.
I'd like to make a comment on this. Commissioner Donnelly and Commissioner Jacobs and myself went on to the site last month, and made a few suggestions to Mr. Best. And we all recognized that this RDA wasn't going to be feasible with what he wanted, and suggested that he modify the current order of conditions that is still open for this parcel, and he agreed. My advice would be that the commission follow that, and that we close out the RDA and move forward with the modification of the order of conditions.
Herlin, are you comfortable if Mr. Best just withdraws his RDA application?
Yes.
Mr. Best, are you on with us? This is Joyce Jacobs.
Yes, I am, Joyce.
Okay, so because we're going to consider the plans for the shed under the modification of the current open order of condition, if it's acceptable to you, you can withdraw your request for determination, and we'll proceed with the modification. We'll have a vote to allow him to withdraw his request for determination. If that's acceptable to you, Mr. Best?
Yes. What is the procedure for withdrawing the RDA?
We're just doing it now, and then Herlin will
Okay.
note, we'll vote on it, that we're allowing you to withdraw. and it'll be noted that it is withdrawn, and why, because we're going to do it under the notice of intent.
Okay.
All right, so motion to withdraw the RDA, request for determination for 80 Sheldon Road.
Seconded.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the table. So let me, let's see. Motion and a second on the table. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly? Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarahfield, aye. Motion passes, and will allow Mr. Best to withdraw his request for determination of applicability.
Do we want to move to the notice of intent modification now while we have Mr. Best on?
Order of conditions. The modification of order of conditions.
All right. Okay, so under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for modification of order of conditions, Douglas Best, 80 Sheldon Road.
Okay.
Mr. Best, can you please speak to the modifications to your notice of intent?
Okay. You want me to describe how the shed would be built?
I think we kind of did that the last time that we kind of incorporated that into the RDA. Mr. Best, I just want to verify you are going to now do piers under the shed, which is the reason for having to disturb the buffer zone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That would be a lot better than to level out the area and put stone down. There'd be a lot less disturbed soil.
So nothing has really changed as far as his plan based on what was presented with the RDA previously, except for the fact now that it is going to stay, as Herlin said, Agent Jamie, myself, and Commissioner Donnelly went out and kind of reviewed possible options of sites, but Mr. Best would prefer it to the left of the driveway, which means he's going to be working in the buffer zone and disturbing that area to put the piers in, and thus the need for modification and allowing that in the plan that already exists.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Best,
Yes.
did you have a comment, or was that?
No, I was just agreeing with what was said.
Okay.
Excuse
So let's open the floor. Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this, or would like to request more information? Seeing none from the public here, do we have anybody waiting in the waiting room? Hearing none. Do we have any comments from the commission?
Before I make a motion, my comments would be, excuse me, install a straw wattle within the perimeter of the construction, and a stone drip edge on the rear of the shed drip line. And
Okay.
I would include those two things in a motion to amend the order of conditions.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
So hearing no more from, go ahead.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I do have one question. Mr. Best, I see in your notice, your narrative, that you did contact the previous applicant and the builder, Jameson Van Dyke. However, and we appreciate you doing that, but we are going to need written confirmation that he is allowing you to modify the notice of intent and order of condition. It's nice, I know we have it documented in your letter that you did have a conversation and he said that you can do that, but we really need a signature saying, a letter saying that he's giving you the authority to modify his order of condition. Without that, I would say, so we can continue and not hold up the modification, but I would suggest that we add a new special condition that says that modification, the construction of the shed shall not begin until written authorization from the original applicant allowing Mr. Best to modify the original order of condition is provided to the conservation agent.
Okay, I mean, that makes sense.
Okay. And to confirm Commissioner Donnelly's thoughts, in the order of condition, the special conditions that were previously issued, please pay attention to particularly items 5, 6, 9, 10, and 11, which really are erosion control, slope stabilization, and the need to reseed the area once the shed is put in place. Thank you.
Would you like to document this?
Summarize what's on the floor? Thank you. All right, so we have on the floor for a motion 80 Sheldon Road. This is a modification of an existing order of condition dated November 14th, 2022, under DEP file number 155721. We would revise the order of condition to be based on the as-built number 2 as-built revision plan provided by Graz Engineering and modified to show the shed to be placed by Mr. David Best, added approximately April 25th, 2024. In addition, we would add a special condition, as noted, that we need a signature from the original applicant, and the motion would be to modify the current order of condition for 80 Sheldon.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwad?
Aye.
Commissioner Satterfield, aye. The motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Best.
You're welcome. Okay, so I will get in contact with Jameson Van Dyke and get a signed letter from him.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thank you for your flexibility tonight as well. We appreciate it.
All right, and then once I get that letter, what should I do? Should I send it in to Erlen?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, and so there's no confusion on this. I will be doing the work here, contacting Mr. Van Dyke, not my son, David.
Okay.
I think Joyce might have said David in the motion.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
It's just,
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Thank you, Mr. Best.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too. And thank you very much.
Good night.
continued to August.
Okay. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent, Oak Hill Country Club, Solar LLC, Oak Hill Country Club, Shea Street. And at the request of the applicant, this will be continued to the August meeting. Can I have a motion and a second to continue to the August meeting? Reminding everybody that the July meeting was canceled because of the 4th of July.
Motion to continue.
Second?
Okay. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarahfield, aye. The motion passes. Continued to August. Thank you. So, okay, we've got, let's see what's next is, moving forward, under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for notice of intent Unitil Corporation, Anode Groundbed, Putnam Pond. And it looks like we have Mr. Martin here to speak to the notice of intent.
Yes, hello, thank you.
Chair recognizes Mr. Martin.
Thank you. So since last time I was here for this project, I've since received a file number with the DEP, and they also left some comments. They didn't approve the application because they had some comments. Yeah, as you can see here on the screen. So right now I'm pretty much just working to revise the plans and resubmit the permit. So I'm not sure how that would proceed here. Would that just mean that we would have to continue until I can submit the revised drawing set as well as the revised permit to you guys, and then we'll kind of review next meeting?
Is June, was it June 4th?
No.
Yeah, I believe it's June.
June 5th.
June 5th, is that enough time, Mr. Martin?
Yes, I'll have it. I'll have the revised drawings as well as the permit resubmitted with the proper information within the next week or so.
Can we have a motion and a second to continue this hearing to the June meeting?
Motion to continue to June 5th.
Second.
Okay. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly? Aye. Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarahfield, aye. The motion passes. We'll see you next month, Mr. Martin.
Okay, thank you.
And now we've got the... Do we not have anyone here from the library?
We do.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 13, Section 40, the Fitchburg Conservation Commission will open the hearing for modification of order of conditions, Tapé Architects, Fitchburg Public Library, 610 Main Street.
There's a few of them. We just raise your hand? Who wants to speak first? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Hello.
So the chair recognizes Jeffrey Hoover and Michelle Callahan.
No.
Can
Beth,
you
did you want to go first?
talk to us about the modifications?
Yes, hello, this is Jeffrey Hoover, and I'm project architect for the Fitchburg Library. We're coming back to the commission because we have modified the design of the library. Most of those modifications are within the building, but some of them do impact the site as well. So what we have done is we have raised the floor levels within the addition to be 2 feet above the base flood elevation. The footprint of the building remains in the same place, which is positioned to be outside the base flood elevation line as determined by FEMA. But now we've raised the floor elevations inside to, as I said, be 2 feet above that base flood elevation. The site changes as a result of that. There's some modest regrading, and also we have some exterior stairways to get from those higher elevations now down to the site. But Other than that, the configuration of the site remains, I think, largely the same. And what I will do is I'll pass the commentary over to our civil engineer, Michelle Callahan from Niche Engineering, and she can walk us through the drawings that we have to illustrate sort of the previous design and compare that with the current proposal.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Am I able to share screen, or do I just need to talk off of the drawings that you have, Harlan?
If you let me know what drawings you're going to be speaking about, I'll display them, because we have the permit set landscape, the civil set, and then we have the compensatory storage figures.
Yeah, so I think if you pull up the civil set, that would be the easiest to speak to. Thank you.
Just bear with me one moment. My computer is a little...
And then if you go to the utility sheet, it's the 200.
It's very slow. I might just want to share it.
It's a big file, so it's
a
slow
big
no
file,
matter.
so it's very slow to load. I think if you want to just start talking, if the
Yeah, I can just start talking. Yeah,
these materials have been distributed to them too, so they've been able to view them beforehand. So it's not new to them.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, like Jeff mentioned, the majority of the changes to the design take place in the building. There were several site modifications because of that elevation change that he mentioned. But the majority of the building height change is addressed through those stairways that transitions down from the elevated floor levels down to the surrounding grades. So most of the site really changed really closest to where that building footprint was. And as a result of that, some of the site layout in that parking lot within the floodplain had to be modified slightly. So we submitted the updated plans that include both the civil plans and the landscape plans that showed those modifications. Again, an overall big picture, very slight modifications. The regrading that took place because some of the elevations closest to the updated building had gotten a little bit higher. We had to tweak the grading within that parking lot to be able to meet the compensatory storage requirements. Yeah, thank you. This is perfect. So you'll notice over closest to the building where the generator is located, that was where it was previously located in the earlier design. But now the majority of that area is actually landscaped, and the generator is going to sit on an elevated platform. So that whole area there's actually less impervious area in this updated design. And so there's a little bit of depressed areas in that landscaped area that help us meet the compensatory storage requirements. Other than that, big picture, the stormwater design is exactly the same as it was before, just some modifications to the piping, again, because the grading changed, some of those low point locations changed as well. But the overall stormwater strategy is the same. Everything's going to that, in that parking area, going to that subsurface infiltration system. And then I think that's pretty much it. So you can see the contour labeled there, the 448.77, that's the elevation listed on the current preliminary map. And so there actually was another preliminary map issued since we got the order. The elevation has remained the same. So it's still the same elevation that we were talking about last time, the 448.77. I think that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, the site really the majority of the changes that took place were related to the building itself. And so the site plan overall, the design intent is very similar to what was previously approved.
Thank you. Let's see. Let's open the floor for public comment. Would anyone like to speak in favor of or against this hearing, or would like to request more information? Please state your name and address for the record. There's no one in attendance in person. Do we have anyone in the waiting room, on virtual waiting room? No. There's no one in the virtual waiting room, so let's turn to the commission. Any questions, comments from the commission?
I think on vacation.
Okay. All right. Hearing no more from the public, the chair closes the hearing for request for, oh, I'm sorry. This is the modification of order of conditions, Tape Architects, Fitchburg Public Library, 610 Main Street. Would you like to give us a summary, Commissioner
Thank you, Madam
Jacobs?
Chair. So the discussion right now centers around 610 Main Street, the library. This is a modification to an order of condition that was issued October 2nd of 2023 under DEP file number 155733. And the modification would indicate now the modified plan labeled revised permit set dated 4/12/2024 would be the accepted plan under the order of condition.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sailfield, aye. So the motion to accept the modifications that Commissioner Jacobs outlined passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Thank you and good evening.
Good night. All right. So now we can move on to other business.
Boy, this is a record.
6:40.
I know. Okay. So we've got an update, official appointment of Catherine Wallace and
Not Brad.
Brad Peltier. I think Herlin wants us to vote to move these applications forward. Can we have a motion and a second to move the applications forward to a full appointment?
Go ahead.
Question whether that's in our purview.
We're moving it to the mayor for consideration. We're just voting on sending it to the mayor.
It's a first for me.
I think this is what
It's a first, yeah.
this is what our
Procedural.
agent has requested of us.
Oh, yeah?
All we're doing is sending it to the mayor like we always do, except we're just making it a formal process. You still
Do we have a motion?
Can somebody, please?
We need a
Motion to advance the application for Catherine Wallace and Brad Pelletier to be appointed to full-time commission sent to the mayor's office.
We have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor? Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Satterfield, aye. So the motion passes, and we'll get the process going. Thank you very much.
Harlan, when you hear that the appointments are going before the committee, the appointments committee, if you could let us know, because some of us might like to show up and
Sure.
support.
Yes.
I usually
Yes.
come to those. Awesome.
Respectfully, what justification do we have for moving them forward? I guess I've met them on several occasions, and I voted to advance it. Where do I get the wherewithal to advance it, having met them a couple of occasions?
I don't know who's asking. Is he asking me?
I think wonderful people, but that's, I think. I mean, if they're mass murderers and I advanced it, I'd be embarrassed. Well, I didn't say they were. I said if they were. I just don't know what I'm advancing, that's all. Somebody made a mistake and advanced me once.
They can't take that back either.
You understand what I'm saying? That's all.
This is a procedure that our agent has asked us to accommodate.
They applied, they must have given a resume, a background, something that that would justify my vote, other than good looks. I'm asking, we already did it, that's behind us, but going forward, how about give me some meat here, give me something to vote on. Give me a reason for voting, how about that? In the affirmative, or denial.
I think that resumes and other information were passed around when they wanted to join as associates, and then I took the initiative to deal with them on the administrative side. Both Ms. Wallace and Mr. Pelletier have been in contact with me and have picked up materials for meetings, have shown up at site walks, and have demonstrated that they have commitment towards this commission. So I'm asking the commissioners to please move their certification forward to the mayor's office, as should be done, so it could be recorded through the clerk's office that you guys did approve these votes. And then the appointment committee can always say no, and you guys can always vote nay if you don't feel comfortable.
Would you be more comfortable if you saw the copy of the application?
No,
and
if
the
you
resume?
gave it.
I did. It was when they became associates.
Which we did vote on.
I don't remember yesterday, so you expect me to remember 3 months ago. All right, fine. I apologize. All right.
Thank you.
That's what I was asking for, and if I got what I was asking for, then shut up.
We can make notation to give multiple copies to Mr. Donnelly.
Not necessary. I don't need any more than anybody else gets.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner.
I just need a dope slap.
What?
Kathy?
Yes.
Are we subject to Corey checks?
That's a great question.
I don't know.
Were you subject to?
I was not. I'm Corey checked. But I'm trying to think if I was Corey checked when I was hired by the city to start with.
I don't believe that's part
I
of
don't
the
believe it
process.
is. Yeah.
We can start that if it would make Mr. Donnelly feel more.
They didn't have it when I was appointed, right?
I was not Cory checked, but I have been Cory checked.
I have been.
That doesn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
it'll go to the mayor, and then the mayor sends it to the appointments committee to be confirmed by the city council. That's the process.
Lynn, do
What's this?
resumes and cover letters to join the committee
Mayor
of public
first,
records?
then the city
Yes.
council.
It is, okay, so it's all findable.
Yep. Yes.
Okay, moving forward, we've got a subcommittee under the violations and enforcement orders. We have a first quarter report from the subcommittee that everyone was given last month and had a chance to review.
Yeah, so at the end of so that you'd have an opportunity to review it and see if anybody has any questions, the first quarter report from the violations subcommittee was issued. If anybody has any questions for any of us, we'd be happy to address it. If not, we just are going to vote and enter the report into the record. Any questions?
Any questions or comments on the documentation you were given? Hearing none, do we have a motion and a second to accept the report?
Motion to accept the report.
A second?
Second.
Okay. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Satterfield, aye. So we accept the motion, or we accept the report. And moving forward, we've got a certificate of compliance, 155-729 98 Gibson Road. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so I inspected this project last month twice. Once I went on site with both Commissioner Christian and Commissioner Jacobs to inspect the bridge. There was a small modification to the bridge. It had to be moved a little bit in order to actually access the work area, which we were fine with. And then when I went for the final inspection, there was guardrails installed. There were wooden guardrails on the bridge, and a settling basin was actually in place. And they met all the requirements for the order of conditions. So I could advise the commission to vote to approve the certificate of compliance with one perpetual condition stating that the settling basin not be disturbed only because it's not very deep, and and the location of it is in the front part of the home, adjacent to the entry area where you walk in. And as a property owner myself, I'd be very, very eager to fill it because it looks like a hole, basically. So if we could just add that to the perpetual certificate of compliance.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Or questions?
Or,
Please, may I comment?
go ahead.
Vegetation on the slope is yet to be established. The silt fence is still in place. Silt fence can't be removed until the vegetation is established. We shouldn't issue a certificate of compliance until the silt fence is removed. Absent a silt fence and a sock on the left side of the bridge, we have a sloped, seeded, loamed area right to the resource area. And my recommendation would be textile matting, at least 10 feet back from that brook, on the left side of the bridge, on both sides of the brook, at least 10 feet back, textile to hold that soil and leave it there seeded and left in place. But that's still no stabilization, nothing has established, and the silt fence is doing its job now. And I think it's premature. I'd like to give it to him because I thought it was a nice job. I think everything's done very nicely. But those are pretty simple requirements and not onerous at all.
So we could issue a partial with Commissioner Donnelly's follow-up, because I know he does have a closing.
So this is the point of contention, and I'm sorry to interrupt, Commissioner
That's okay.
Jacobs. This is the point of contention that we've discussed with multiple applicants and the commission. In the past, I have asked for the commission to please require certificate of compliances before the transfer of deeds. Some applicants felt that that wasn't appropriate, and then here we are. So this person is asking for a certificate of compliance because a transfer of deed has happened. On a technicality, the order of conditions requires 3 growing seasons. Is that feasible for us to impose onto applicants? Where do we meet halfway? Do we issue a partial certificate of compliance and let them sell the house? Or do we have them abide by the rule that says 3 growing seasons? Or do we pick by case? Because I need to just have some formality for my sake.
What do other cities and towns do?
For the most part, issue a partial certificate of compliance. Is that okay with the applicant who is selling their home? I don't know.
It's not necessarily is it okay with the applicant, it's going to be, is it okay with the bank that the buyer is working with? So I would say we could issue the partial with the noted items that will remain, and because the one condition for a 3-year growing season for the replication area is still in existence, that should suffice with the bank, because there is the 3-year factor in there, and they understand that they can't wait 3 years to transfer the deed either. Commissioner Donnelly, does that make sense to you?
Sure, and I think 3 years is a lot. There isn't a haze on it. There's no germinate. Well, I couldn't see germination, but there's no haze on the loam hill. So it's pretty obvious that it's premature to remove the silt fence, and to issue a certificate of compliance ahead of that would be a mistake on our part. But equally as important as the area that is not neither stabilized nor restricted from erosion on the left side of the driveway, textile matting should be put down and left in place. Let the grass grow up through it.
So the textile matting, we didn't have that in the original order of condition.
Well,
No, we didn't.
we have nothing between the disturbed area and the brook. So if I don't know what the order of conditions says, but there is no barrier between the brook and the disturbed area on the left side of the, so it's vulnerable. Right now, it is vulnerable.
So as I'm hearing this, it sounds to me like a partial certificate, and then if there would be a violation if the 3 growing seasons, if there's not, if it's not completed in 3
Well,
growing
to Commissioner Donnelly's point, item 7 says exposed soil shall be stabilized and revegetated with loam seed and mulch. So we could reference item 7 to the left side of the bridge. The timber mat would be his choice if that's what he prefers, because we didn't instruct that in the order to begin with.
What's an element of stabilization?
Right, but
And we're being more specific right now. Because there's no barrier, that's on them. They didn't put a barrier, and a barrier should have been there.
so erosion control barriers and sediment controls shall be maintained between the stream and the work area. That's been done. Planning plan for the replication area has been done. 75% of the surface of the replication site should be reestablished with indigenous wetland species. Vegetation within the replication area shall be checked to ensure no invasives. So, I mean, there are item 7 in particular, and it's these are the additional special conditions. I don't have the regular special conditions in there, which has the 3-year growing season, so that we could reference that. But we could issue a partial with reference to these conditions still in place.
I would like to do that. I think that's appropriate.
Do you see the predicament we put ourselves in?
I see, yeah, yes, we have to manage this in some capacity.
So, Herlin being our agent, would you feel comfortable going to legal and setting precedents how we're going to handle this down the road, across the board, not case by case?
I have, and we can't impede, we cannot impede the transfer of property. We have to figure out a way to establish some sort of procedural or procedure where we require applicants to either start, I know in the certificate of compliance, the application, Commissioner Jacobs pointed out, WPA Form 8 specifically says, upon completion of the work authorized in the order of conditions, the property owner must request a certificate of compliance from the issuing authority. It's there, but we're not getting them. And issuing a partial certificate of compliance is great, but from the administrative perspective, me picking up the phone and dealing with the applicants on a day-to-day, that means that this developer is going to pass on legally
these requirements
to the property
Yeah.
owner, who is not going to come forth to us to get the full certificate of compliance.
Nor will they probably comply with the conditions that we're putting
Imposing.
on. See, we're running into this all the time. Once
Correct.
the deed changes hands,
It would be a violation.
the new homeowners sit there and scratch their head and say, I have to do this? I didn't know that.
Is it really their violation?
It is. They own it. The violation stays with the property.
Correct.
One of the
Violation
burdens.
stays with the property.
One of the burdens that we're finding we accept, and we don't have to accept it, is that the developer has to do his remediation before he starts building a house. If it's going to take him a year or 2 years to build a house, he best get on the growing seasons so the burden's on him to meet that, and he can meet it, but they don't choose to phase in their work that way. I mean, I don't even know if Mad River picked up on, when I said one of the detention ponds and all the infrastructure established before they go, more often than not, they all put in temporary and not permanent, and I wanted permanent. You have money at the beginning of the project, you have no or far less money at the end of the project. So they could plant early, but they don't. They plant after the traffic is
So maybe that's a recommendation that we can make to applicants when they come in.
Absolutely.
And you guys issue the order of conditions. My personal opinion is if the applicant is a developer, they have a set goal in mind. Time is money for them, for the most part. They're not going to want to extend the order of conditions or delay their certificate of compliance for growing seasons. They're not going to want to do that.
Well, we got pushed back just 30 days ago from an engineer regarding the same thing.
Well, we had this conversation a little bit before when we were talking about Mr. Sene's property on Fifth Mass Turnpike, that even the same happened here. Part of it is we should look at, don't disturb the wetlands enough to where you've got to create a replication area. Then you don't have the problem of the 3-year monitoring of the replication. Just don't do it. And start to push back to the engineers a little bit about, find another way. Move the property, site it differently. Just don't disturb the wetlands so that you have to create, because that's what this is now. He had to, create a wetlands replication area, and we have to monitor it for 3 years. Just don't do it.
Geotextile fabric on slopes germinates real quick, and it's stabilized right away. Just by putting it down, there's an element of stabilization there with no germination and no grass. So they have an option to spend X amount of money on a roll of geotextile fabric where they should consider that.
Well, I'm going to remind the commission that applicants are required to submit an alternatives analysis where they would say, what's the alternative, right? And also, I'm going to remind everybody that if Herlin goes to look at this site and in a year or 2 years and 3 years to identify if the conditions have been met and they haven't been met, that becomes a violation that we call them in on, and we have them, and we work from there. And so that does put the onus on the commission or on the agent to go and inspect to see what the vegetation is happening. And, at that point, if there's a violation, it stays with the property. I mean, that's been made clear, right? That the violation stays with the property.
That's the law.
Yes.
That's what Herlin still has to deal with it, and that's what brought this all up, right? Herlin has to. You'd prefer not to deal with the homeowner after the sale, after the transfer.
So I do think that we should abide by the law fully, but realistically, if you are in the midst of a sale, a property sale, and this is just speaking as Herlin, a person, and this developer is telling you that they're going to get their certificate of compliance, and then the commission says, well, we're only going to give you partial, the house is sold.
Do the new owners not get informed of the requirements by their legal team who's purchasing the house?
I mean, title search is part of buying a property, but what they tell the owners, I'm not sure, that's beyond our scope of knowledge always.
But it's accessible to them.
Yes. Yes.
So years ago, the commission made a request that the office, whenever a property changed hands like this, that there was some kind of pamphlet that went along with it to welcome to owning a property along a wetland. Here's what's required of you. And perhaps this would be a good time to revisit that so
That's
that
a great idea.
we could have, when a property changes hands, they get information from economic development that notifies them that this is what the law says, and this is what they're responsible for. Just like the properties on Will Thompson Way, when those changed hands, here's your pamphlet. Don't fill in that detention pond, just like with this one, don't fill in the pond. These are the activities that you're forbidden from doing because you've purchased this. And that really could just be a letter,
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I would not mind doing that at all. I'm just
trying to figure out how we can prevent issues, and so that people know that that they've purchased something. They can't build their, they can't put the play equipment in the wetland. They can't fill the wetland. They can't fill their detention pond. Even just as enough as saying, hi, we're economic development. You've purchased a property that's got restrictions on it. Please work with us so that you're not in violation. Something like that. We weren't able to do that when it was requested. Perhaps we're able to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
It might go a long way of preventing some of these issues.
Every closing is accompanied by a municipal lien certificate. How do we get in that game? That's all. A municipal lien certificate, you go and you get it, and nobody buys a house without seeing that the taxes are paid, the water bill's paid, et cetera. How do we get on that municipal certificate?
Yeah.
And now it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge that there's a temporary or partial certificate. And all we need to do is we need a space on city. I know it's not a lien, but frankly, your water bill is not a lien until you don't pay it, right? And your taxes aren't a lien until you don't pay it. So it's just a bill. It's an outstanding obligation.
Is this giving us a...
And that's pretty standard. We just want to be part of that standard. Let the buyer beware.
I agree, and I have been asking for this for a long time, and I think we've had this discussion at another public hearing where it's an internal thing, where we're not getting the appropriate notification from other departments, like this property is changing, there's an order of conditions on OpenGov. That should trigger somebody within the city bounds to say, maybe Lynn should be aware of this too. But things are changing, and I think we're all working progressively to get to the same goal. It just takes a little bit of time. What do we do in that meantime when we have projects like this? So Mr. Krygowski called me twice because the house, they were closing on the 24th. We were there.
He asked for it when we were there.
We were there, and he asked for it there, and I said, you have to follow proper protocol. You have to request a certificate of compliance. I have to come out and perform a site walk, and then it would be heard during our May 1st hearing. And he was shocked because he was closing on the 24th and needed to, and he's asked me, can he have the certificate of compliance first thing tomorrow morning? He wants to be in the office tomorrow morning at 8:30 to pick it up.
With all due respect, he operated with a little bit of ignorance the whole way, and this is just another indicator.
Correct, but what I'm trying to say is this is the urgency behind the lack of a process where we're crying people to retain a certificate of compliance before the transfer of property.
So as far as this one goes, 98 Gibson, I would, Herlin, my recommendation, and if everybody else agrees, we should issue a partial.
Yes.
And it's items 7 and 10, that's the dealing with the exposed soils and stabilizing, and then the 2 growing seasons of our additional special conditions will still remain. So the 2 growing seasons, that's going to be 2 years. I mean, it is what it is. If he read his order of conditions, it says specifically 2 growing seasons. Item 7 can be eliminated if he stabilizes that slope to what's acceptable, whether it's the mats or seed planting or whatever. But item 7 and item 10 of the additional special conditions remain.
If that was in a form of a motion, I'd second it.
That's a motion. Okay. Motion to approve certificate of compliance for 98 Gibson Road, partial, with items 7 and 10 of the additional special conditions still remaining.
And the modification of the bridge.
And the modification of the bridge. Yes, that's acceptable.
Yes.
And we have a second?
I did second it.
Thank you. All in favor, Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. So the motion passes with the special requirements. And let's continue this conversation offline
Yes.
about let's see what's next. We have some miscellaneous items. The materials deadline table.
You guys should have received that.
Okay.
Everybody received a materials deadline table. The commission had voted a few months ago that we were to impose a 14-day material meetings deadline instead of the 7 days. The 7 days is not appropriate. It's not enough time for DPW or the people who I forward the materials to actually review and help us out. So I think 14 days, and it's days, not business days, according to our rules and regs. Anything above 10 days is not considered business days, so it's 14 days. The meeting materials are required, so I made a table so that we can post it and people can be aware. And I would like for this to become effective in August, with meeting material deadline being in July. Since we don't have a meeting that month, I think it would be the great time to start. And I need a vote so that we can file it through the city clerk's office.
Motion to accept the advertising date and filing deadline dates effective May 1, well, we were in receipt of it May 1, 2024, to go into effect August 7, our next.
Thank you.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay. I'll call the roll. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. And thank you, Herlin.
You're welcome.
That's been on our minds for a while now, and including Commissioner Erickson, who
Yes.
has requested that as well. We've got, next, there was a letter of support from the DPW. Do you want to talk about that? Or
It was just I didn't bring the letter with me, but it was,
Commissioner Erickson had requested a letter from the commission, a letter of support for the Municipal Vulnerability Project application that was submitted, and he needed that last Friday. So over the email, I requested that Herlin submit that letter and sign my name on, and now we need a vote on it to support it.
Motion to accept the letter presented for the vulnerability plan to DPW as presented.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Commissioner Christian?
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs?
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat?
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. And then,
Madam Chair?
Yes.
When they ask you to jump, do you ask them how high?
Commissioner Erickson? Yes, I do. Because we enjoy working with him, and he's one of, the DPW is one of our most important stakeholders. Moving forward, we've got the CDP funding request for Riverfront Park.
so this wasn't a very informal, that's why you didn't receive anything, any tangible materials for this. So the Community Development and Planning Department hosted the Earth Day event on Sunday, the 22nd. Before the event, there was a cleanup of Riverfront Park and a removal of invasives. The cleanup of trash was done by North County Land Trust, and then the removal of invasives was done by the National River Watershed Association. They did such a great job, had an amazing turnout, that Community Development would like to continue the remediation of that park and other city areas. They want to see if CONSCOM would be willing to sponsor some of the funding that will go forward to, one, the spraying herbicide of Riverfront Park and some other areas where Japanese knotweed is kind of coming through, and some other plantings of some, I think, flowers in the downtown area, specifically a garden up front. They want to change the area up front here and want to plant a native garden with some educational tags. And they just wanted some backing from CONSCOM. It's not concrete, so that's why there's no tangible materials for you to see. It's an envisionment at this point. And I know that Sean Michael had met with,
I did a walk with them yesterday.
yes, there's a Mr. Neil Zani who owns a local nursery who is going to donate most of the plantings and soil and everything that might be needed. And I think the potential monies that it may need might be for labor. Do you want to go into a little bit of what?
I mean, the details that I spoke with Neil about was just these two garden fronts out here. He was going to put a proposal together of what species he would suggest in order, and then that's pretty much it. What labor would be needed. He did talk about donating a couple of certain things, like a pathway, like flagstones in between, that would allow visitors to see the native species and then try and highlight the importance of pollination and habitat for the native wildlife.
Within the city bounds.
Within the city bounds. There was a discussion to extend that to some of the islands, but the fear of if hummingbirds or other pollinators were trying to go through traffic to get to what they felt was a habitat or a place for them to eat, they would get struck by a car. So we found that this would be the most ideal spot for public viewing and safe for wildlife.
I have some.
Yes,
I have a comment, and my comment is related to Japanese knotweed, and perhaps Commissioner Donnelly would like to be involved in this discussion. The way we look at the knotweed and the ways that knotweed can be, before we talk about removing knotweed, I would like to acknowledge that knotweed plays a very serious role in bank stabilization. And so any measures that are taken to remove knotweed have to be accompanied, have to be followed in a way that actually will do something to remove the knotweed and kill the knotweed, but also has to be followed with plantings of materials that will continue to stabilize the bank in such a way that is as effective as the knotweed is. It's really hard to get rid of knotweed, okay? And it's got a small window, and I'll let my fellow Commissioner Donnelly go on about that. But in order to tame the knotweed, it takes multiple growing seasons. It takes very careful application of that herbicide so that it actually gets taken into the root system. And we need to be working with that. To remove that knotweed in any way has to be accompanied by stream bank stabilization with native species that will actually do that. Or we're going to lose, if it was possible to destroy that knotweed in one growing season, now we have to be able to stabilize the stream bank that the knotweed is actually stabilizing in a very effective manner. Am I making myself clear?
We have to be strategic with it.
Yes, we have to be strategic with it.
Yeah.
And so there's applicators that have to be used. There's a very small window that we can apply that herbicide into the root system the way that it's done, that has been completed effectively. It has to be done over multiple seasons, and we need to be stabilizing that stream bank in some capacity. Commissioner Donnelly, you have...
Is that what I do, go on?
You have experience with
No, yeah, all I can
knotweed.
say is it's not a battle, it's a war. And when you pick away at it, you're doing battle with it and you lose. So it's a war and you've got to concentrate your effort. And it's going to be done over time and you won't do it all. So pick the fights you can win. And if you're going to go out there just to feel good about getting rid of it, you're not going to win the war. You just engage in battle. That's all. With regard to pollinators, that vegetation outside, given a chance to establish itself, is the best choice for a municipal building on a main street in Fitchburg. The educational component notwithstanding, there are places to put natives and/or pollinators, et cetera, and in the front of City Hall, that right there. That's both aesthetically pleasing and it will suppress weeds. I remember I waited for something in here. Maybe I had to recuse myself and I went out there and pulled weeds. And I know that if you do that, you won't have to do it in a year or two. That'll take over and it'll outcompete all of the weeds out there. So when it comes to spending Conservation Commission money, a blank check is not something I would say motion or second or raise my hand with a blank check to fight a battle. If you want to go to war, I'll go to war. But I don't go to war if I can't win. So I want to know that I can win ahead of it. So respectfully, we want allies. If we're going to go to war, we want allies. So those people that are, I want to spend Conservation Commission money because in the bank it's not doing a lot of good, but I don't want to pilfer it. I'm not saying that it's being pilfered. I don't want to be guilty of pilfering all the money that Herlin has made for us over the last couple of years.
And I also wanted to say, I think that this is great. We need education about native species. I will tell you, after we moved into our house in 2011, I am just now on top of the bittersweet that had invaded our backyard. I pulled out a massive root that I forgot to bring in. But how have I done it? By planting native species that are outcompeting the bittersweet that's in my backyard. So right now, this year, I pulled out 3 and my entire backyard was covered. No one had lived in the house for 10 years, and the bittersweet had taken over. 13 years later, I found 3 little shoots coming up, yanked them out, and the native species that I've planted has outcompeted all of it. So it is possible. It is a war against these invasives. Knotweed is, when you look at how knotweed grows and where it is native, it's extremely effective at what it does. Unfortunately, it's invaded our space, and you're right, it's a war. So I would not commit to funds being used in a situation where
We don't have a plan in place.
we're not going to win the war. So, but with the native species, yes, we should be planting them anywhere that we can on public space. And I would support that as well.
On a personal level, I'm involved in an invasive on my own property, and it's a 3-year program. And the first year is 80% of the work, and then they cut it down the second, and then the third. And then my basic thing is bittersweet, and after the 3rd year, the bittersweet will be dead. You could see on my property, it's just everything is hanging. It looks like a war zone. But then you have to be careful because you're exposing sunlight to the ground that hasn't had sunlight. So at a minimum, it's a 3-year project, and that'll get bittersweet killed. I'm using Bay State Forestry is doing it, and it's a 3-year program. So it's more than that.
I would also be willing to have public education events where we discuss invasive species. When I was at the MAC conference, I spoke to a couple different organizations that was more than willing to come in and do that. I mean, we've got the spotted lanternfly. We have knotweed. We've got bittersweet. I mean, multiflora rose, we've got all kinds of. I would be willing to also, to go along with it, have some educational events where we talk about native species and invasive species and give our comments about removals of it, or work with some local companies.
Somebody will say?
When it comes to the riverfront, is it something that we would have to require bids for, where it's like a company would come in and then do like a 3-year program where they're cutting, herbiciding, probably replanting ground coverage temporarily while planting something that's going to block out the shades, like willows, right? Willows take a good job, or do a good job at rooting near the riverbanks. That would also stabilize and hopefully block out the growth of the Japanese knotweed.
Yeah, it's a war. It's literally a war.
So to Mark's point, professionals over time. So going out and getting your feet wet and doing the hard work on a weekend, it's not professional and it's not over long enough period of time. So that's the war I would engage in with Conservation Commission money. And frankly, we don't even have a template, or not a template, but a war zone. And if Riverfront Park were the war zone, I'd bite. But it's got to be manageable. It's got to be done by a professional, and over time, because any one of us who either leads or follows in that war, you may not be here 3 years from now, and all of a sudden, the effort is lost, and you're just throwing your money away if you're not going to continue it over time.
But I hear two things from this. One, the education of native species, and two, the eradication of knotweed.
So I think I misspoke or there was a lack of communication when I first stated the opening statement to this. It would not be Joe Schmo doing this work. Like, there have been quotes for professionals in remediation of the knotweed, and community development would hire those people who then, we just don't have, and then that's what my question was, is there a contingency plan? What are you doing? When are you doing it? How often are you doing it? When are you coming back? And that wasn't given to me. So this is technically just a pitch. There's nothing to vote on. It's just, hey, this might be coming in the forefront for us. Our executive director did say she received some quotes from people who are trained professionals in the removal of knotweed. I just haven't seen anything physical myself.
So it sounds like that if that does proceed to that.
They would like our support.
Right, and it looks like they might, because that might meet the criteria that everybody is concerned about.
Correct.
Who are we hiring? When are they going to apply things? How long are they contracted for? And once we get that and we have a X dollar amount that can be divvied up between community development, CONSCOM, whoever else is a player in this, and how much would everybody be willing to, is the plan acceptable, and how much is everybody willing to put in when we get to that
And
stage?
I think that the reason that Riverfront Park is the choice location is not only because of the park, the usage of the park. They want to have the park be more accessible to people, but two, when Commissioner Jacobs and I met with the U.S.
Army Corps of Engineers.
Army Corps of Engineers, they did make a point that they would prefer for us to remove the invasives from the riverfront area because of other things that are happening in that area, in the river, and it's part of the project area. There were some other things that they mentioned, but it would just go in conjunction with all of that. It would remediate it would check lots of boxes for both DPW, ourselves, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the city as a whole. But like I said, this is just a pitch so that in the future we can say, we've discussed this, if they come forward, this is a plan, and we would support.
And there will be a certain amount needed for education, because make no mistake, there will be chemicals involved. So here we are, a Conservation Commission. There's going to be a lot of questions asked of, the professionals are doing what the professionals do, but there will be chemicals involved.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think there's a misconception when
It's the only way to kill it.
conservation and preservation
use
of
the right
land,
tool for the
lack of
job.
use of chemicals.
Well,
Sometimes it's the only.
No, it's the greatest good of the greatest, the greatest number over the longest time, right?
The truth be known, it's always been a pet peeve of mine is River Street. And, River Street, 50/50 Dinah, that section right there. If you want to isolate an area and have an impact, that right there would be a neat little project. We don't need community development and/or any other entity. We can spend our money, pick a spot, and go to war. And I've always wanted to do that. It would be nice if we owned the land. Not sure that we do there, but that's our Star Road Drive. River Street, Route 2A is our Star Road Drive. And if we treated it with a lot more attention, I think there'd be benefits. If we could pick a spot without anybody else and spend our money, hire it to a third party, and monitor it over 3 years. And we'd know what our expenses are, we'd know what the cost is. At the end of 3 years, we'd assess whether we want to do it again or.
So do we know if any of the parcels that we own already are, do you know of any on that list that
We own.
are exceptional for knotweed?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Airport
It's
Road.
something we can look into.
The city owns some of it. 'Cause
Yes.
They have to plow the
Airport Road.
To the right or left of the deal, yeah, we own a good portion of that, yeah.
I'm sorry, where was that, Herlin?
I didn't hear.
But this is just Conscom, right?
That's Conscom, yeah.
City land would be okay too, right?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
we might as well pick our own, right, if we have it.
Right,
yeah.
if we're going to do
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
let's do something on our list.
Yeah.
I think it's important Riverfront Park be beautified, and that's a great place to plant native species and do that work.
There's a reason this was brought up. So if you really want a little spot that you could attack and be effective and monitor, I brought it to the Conservation Commission's attention. Sand Brook is at the intersection of Electric Ave and Rollstone Road. The cemetery department uses it right now to stockpile material. Knotweed was introduced to Forest Hill Cemetery because of disturbed soil, and soil brought in. And they got rid of some of it in the past. Well, right now, they're expanding, and they will expand the cemetery, but the access road there, they're stockpiling material, and there is knotweed there that never existed before. And it was invited by disturbed soil, and any new soil that's brought in brings in knotweed. If you want to attack, not Conscom land, but them, right there, and number one, you're going to stop the practice. It wouldn't be right to stop the practice of stockpiling soil there, and then attack the little bit that's got a foothold there. And you could see the results in 3 years. They'd be right there in your face. I'd see them because I go by that so very often. I think that would be a neat little project. I'd even pay for some of that. If you need a partner in that project, I'd partner in that project. I think we have the money on Conscom, but it would be worth it to me. It'd be a neat little thing, and
It's a good spot.
If we want to test out what it entails, one of finding a partner to work with, whoever has the ability to destroy the knotweed and do it over the period of time, go through that process and see what it takes, that could be a good learning experience.
I mean, we know how to get rid of knotweed, okay? There's data that supports how to successfully get rid of knotweed.
But the companies that do it, yeah.
On city land, you'd have to have a license application.
Of course, no, I'm just saying, we know how to we know how to win that war. It's just a matter of doing it properly. And like I said, there's two issues here. One is education and planting of native species. Yes, that's awesome. Number two is knotweed eradication. Those are two very, very different items, and I would support both. But the knotweed, we have data to show us how to get rid of knotweed successfully. I would be expecting that we would be using that data to eradicate knotweed.
There's only one thing on the agenda, and we like to wrap it up quickly after that. While we're on this, the two things I'm getting out of tonight's meeting is, one, is if a councilor petitioned the council as a whole to get us on municipal lien certificate sign-offs. That's what I got out of tonight. So if we could get them to do that procedurally, legally, we'd be on that municipal lien certificate sign-off, CONSCOM. And then secondly, if we could pick a spot and just agree to sign a contract with a person, and find a partner or two that would bear some of the cost, and hire a professional to do it, whatever we could do. We can get rid of it by cutting it down and burning, and then let him take over to poison it, if you will. All right, those are the two things I got, and I'll follow up on both of those.
Okay.
But I believe you wouldn't cut it down and burn it. I believe you'd let it grow to maturity and kill it in September when it's in flower.
In fact, if you cut it now, June, July, you've got greater control over it come September. That's all. Okay. It's still going to go up. It's still going to flower. Okay. You just slowed it down so it's not 6 feet. It's flowering at 4 feet instead of 6. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And even then, after you've sprayed it, you can remove it. After you've sprayed it, it's drawn, cut it, and burn it. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so moving forward, we've got some correspondence about a notice of intent to sell parcels 288-7-0, 288-8-0, 288-10-0, and 79R-39-3. Joyce, did you want to talk about that, or Harlan?
I inquired with the assessor's office about these parcels. They are removing the restriction, the 61A. And basically, unless all the departments within the city or the city wants to move forward to buy these, we have no say. I just wanted to present this to you guys as a...
Yeah, there was a letter that was sent.
Yeah.
It notifies the mayor, the city council, board of assessors, planning and conservation that these parcels are coming off of Chapter 61 and being sold.
Mm-hmm.
City has first right of refusal. I think actually Commissioner Christian has the forestry angle of it.
When it goes on 61 and 61A, the city has the first right of refusal. So unless there was something outstanding that they wanted to pursue it, they could. And if it, on rare occasions, they can also give that right forward. Like they could give that right to North County Land Trust if it was something that they really felt they wanted to go after. So when you sign up for 60, there are penalties or there are consequences when you get on 61, 61A or B, that you know that you have to pay the back taxes. That's why this letter certainly involves the assessor's office. So you have to pay the back taxes. It's a 10-year block. And then when you get out, the city has the first right of refusal. This city, doesn't have a history of pursuing that. But if it was a unique piece, they could forward that to another nonprofit entity.
I'm not familiar with this site at all, but I was just very inquisitive about the parcels and then the lack thereof of that parcel in between. I don't know if you noticed, there's one parcel in between all of these parcels. But like they said, it's not our playground. We're not, the city is not in the interest of acquiring these properties, so.
I have two questions.
Yes.
Have you saved $330,000 for us, Harlan?
I have not yet.
How long will it take you? How long will it take you to do so? Because again, money in the bank doesn't do any good. You got to spend it to get something. If we had $330,000, would we go after it? That would be a question that we'd have to answer. But you got to have the will, or take out a loan to buy a piece of land. We have to be ready, strike when the iron's hot. And then my second question is, do you recognize that as the cleared apple orchard?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
So at this point, I think this is really just, it's not necessarily a parcel. Am I correct in saying, Commissioner Donnelly, that this is not exactly a parcel that we're particularly anxious to obtain, or would be, and we don't have the money anyway, so we defer to the mayor? I mean, it's really going to be
It's
her
just-
choice is to...
Just a notification, and
Yeah.
people do have the right to change their land use. You know, that is still the landowner's right to change his land use, and he has to pay the tax on it.
So it will really be the mayor's office decision as to whether or not the city has any interest in this or not.
I would like to ask if we have a list of parcels that we would be interested in purchasing should the matter come in front of us. And I don't know that we do.
Excuse me, I want to make note as to what Mark was saying. There is a notification in the package that I gave you that this is going to be sold for residential use. So just thinking to the future.
We could buy it for $330 and flip it for $430 if you're creative. But we're not going to. Yeah, but good point. What's out there that has value, that's mismanaged, that we should take hold? And even if the city currently owns it and mismanages it, we should step in. It'd be cheaper that way.
No, I mean, that's a great,
Good question. We know,
there anything
we know
that we
now
want?
what we are responsible for, but we don't know down the road what would we want to be responsible for.
Can I take a picture of
Yeah, you can actually,
thank you for getting us that.
you can keep that. I have others, I think. Not I know how to get it. You can have that.
Okay.
Joyce, was that shared with the other commissioners?
Yeah, I think that, because that's the list that after,
Via email, right?
yep, that was it. So I have that if anybody else needs a copy. I think
Or you just,
it's available.
we can have Commissioner Jacobs stop printing stuff, and please come to the office, and we will print them out for you. So she doesn't keep wasting.
Are you familiar with this list?
Yes, I have it.
And you're familiar with this
Yes.
list?
Yeah, I did it.
0 John Fitch Highway, Baker Brook.
Yeah,
Yes.
the long strip that goes.
I had a fight over that.
What's the parcel number on that?
0. Oh, excuse me. 88R 210. 88R 210. The Attorney Gelinas, not Erb, Attorney Erb, offered it to us. We said we wanted it. Next thing I know, he's giving it to DPW. I had an argument with him. You offered it to us, we accepted it, we have a contract, and now you're giving it to DPW. They wanted it to sand.
So,
As I
the
recall.
property card states Conservation Commission of this parcel.
Yeah.
Shown up above.
No, we got that parcel, and we gave the sand to the DPW, and that we get the parcel, though. They took the sand.
I was ready to go to, he was giving it to us, and I wanted to fight him because no, they're not taking any sand out of there. They got to go through Lunenburg to do it.
Well, yes, but we did get the parcel.
What was it? There was
Yes,
a,
it's ours.
It's ours.
there was a fight there. Mark, you remember it? You weren't around?
I was here.
Yeah.
We got the parcel of land.
I don't,
And part of it went
I punched him
to,
for nothing?
part of it went to St. Bernard's. There was a portion of it that went to St. Bernard's. That was across the street, which has been, wetlands were delineated
I know,
on it.
yeah.
And the other side of it went to us. Yes, you could only access it from Lunenburg,
No.
from what I recall.
Now that, no, did I tell you,
did get
you want to play games? The idea is to get rid of that, give it to Lunenburg, and take something on Airport Road that Lunenburg has on the Fitchburg Railroad side. You got to swap. You got to do that, kids. If we own that, we should be working a deal with Lunenburg They own land in Fitchburg, this side of the railroad tracks. They can't get it unless they come through Fitchburg.
I don't think that this is the appropriate parcel.
Right, I
then.
mean, we can talk about that.
88R21 is abutting Ringe Road.
It's
and
88, yeah, which one?
88R-21-0.
88R22 and 21 and
Ringe?
22.
It says it's off of Ringe Road behind John Fitch Highway. So,
Oh, I know that one.
yeah, that's a different one.
Well, that's a good one. We should do something with that too. Yeah.
That's a different one.
All right,
'Cause that's
okay.
not abutting Lunenburg at all.
Okay. So now go to Baker Brook. Does anyone know what number that is?
Yeah, it's here.
Well, she's got a map right up there, huh?
Give me the number and I'll look it up.
St. Bernard's,
Baker Brook is 73-1A, 73-1-A.
Unitil, Roman Catholic Church.
Yeah, so this is abutting Lunenburg and it's us, it's ours. And it looks like the only accessible
Through Lunenburg.
is through Lunenburg.
Okay, so they have the situation on Airport Road, they can't get to their land because of a railroad track. We have a situation, we can't get our land because of water. If we could switch those two, they'd benefit, we'd benefit.
Well, that's a great conversation, and we should have that, but let's get back to what's on the agenda, which next is the minutes for,
There was a mistake on the minutes. I apologize. We already did August. It was only March 6th.
okay, so.
I'm sorry,
It's just March.
vice versa.
Only the August one, yeah, because there's no March
There's no
ones in the
March
package.
6th.
Okay. So can I have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of the regular meeting of August 2nd, 2023?
Motion to approve?
Okay, and I'm going to call the roll. Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yeah.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. The motion passes. And can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the regular meeting of the May 1st, 2024 Fitchburg Conservation Commission at 7:52 p.m.?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Commissioner Christian,
Aye.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Jacobs,
Aye.
Commissioner Tantanarwat,
Aye.
Commissioner Sarfield, aye. Good night, everybody.